What makes us humans? Sure, we walk into feet, but is that really unique in the animal kingdom? We talk, but we are far from being the only species that uses some form of communication. What sets us apart is the ability to create. Of course, the smart sparrow may build its nest, and to construct a dam the beloved beaver is the best, but what makes our projects transcend into something bigger is their purpose. We don't create merely to survive, we don't conform. We create, get stuck, learn, and innovate. From the Egyptians to the Greeks to the Romans to the Chinese, we lay the foundation hoping that the next generation will take our knowledge and build something anew.
Desde una temprana edad he estado fascinado por los edificios, hecho aparente por este dibujo que hice cuando tenía 6 años, el cual, por cierto, tiene una terrible escala y ridículos errores de ortografía. Ever since, I've had the opportunity to visit some of these incredible structures, and my passion has only grown to encompass other branches of design and planning. So, I decided to make this video, to appreciate some of the most significant structures of humankind. The history of construction is as old as the history of humanity, so it's hard to place a starting point for our journey. The oldest claim of a surviving human structure lies in modern-day Tanzania, a circle of stones and the remains of huts presumed to be 1.8 million years old. Hunter-gatherers built these type of structures all around the world. They were constructed as simple and temporary shelters, thus there was no need for sophistication or improvement, and it wouldn't be any until the age of agriculture. There was suddenly a benefit to staying in a permanent location, which meant our constructions would evolve into the first buildings and permanent settlements, made out of stone gathered from quarries and carved with flint points, packed clay, and wood. Walls, houses, burial sites, roads, temples, palaces, corbelled roof would begin to appear all over the place. As technology and agriculture improved, more people started to live in these settlements, which meant innovations would have to be made to the infrastructure. We were now on the road to modern civilization. By the year 4000 BCE, the first cities would appear in India, China, Mesopotamia, and Europe. What used to be simple building practices were replaced by predetermined rules for construction, prefabricated units in the form of mud and fire bricks, and geometric standards for structures, which led to more complex structures like the Anu Ziggurat of Uruk. The use of bronze and later iron tools would also contribute to more complex buildings. The use of geometry and arithmetics in construction led to who is considered to be the first engineer, who is credited for using pillars to support stone for the first time. Imhotep was also the architect of the oldest pyramid, which also took the title of the tallest artificial structure at that time. However, it wouldn't maintain its status for long, as Egyptians experimented with other similar structures until they created the Great Pyramids of Giza. The math behind the pyramids is as impressive as the construction process itself. In 30 years, 2 million blocks were carved and transported up the Nile to be placed, using sleds, lever, and raw human power. The then 146-meter tall Khafre pyramid will remain the tallest human-made structure for almost 4 millennia. The Egyptian stone technologies expanded across the Mediterranean, contributing to an architectural revolution in other parts of the world. By this time, the Great Wall of China was being built. The Greeks began constructing their stone-framed temples using limestone and marble. They used metal clamps and dowels to join stones together. They experimented with iron beams to support long spans of stone, and they also began using arches, pillars, and tile roofs, now characteristics of Greek architecture. By the 5th and 6th century BCE, city planning became a priority for Greek builders, with Greek patterns of paved streets, public buildings, temples, gymnasiums, and open-air theaters. The Lighthouse of Alexandria and the Colossus of Rhodes were built. On the other side of the ocean, Teotihuacan began to flourish, using a similar grid plan for the streets. The Etruscans in northern Italy adopted some Greek technologies, and at the same time, in the middle of the peninsula, a small republic would derive some of these practices from the Etruscans, but I'm sure this won't significantly affect. That was fast. The first bridges over the Tiber were being built by the Romans. Some of them are still being used to this day. As the empire expanded, so did their practices. Aqueducts and bridges were being built across Europe, and stone-faced temples and domes were inherited from the Greeks. This expansion would influence medieval and modern construction. The expansion of the Romans would also lead to the construction of roads connecting the empire. Layered roads, kept as straight as possible. The network of 250,000 kilometers linking 3 continents is an engineering marvel. Sewage, plumbing, and water fountains would set precedents for today's systems. Transparent glasses started to be used in houses and as mosaics. The architecture would be written, the earliest written record of architecture and engineering practices. Concrete would begin to be used, transforming infrastructure forever. The magnitude of these projects will continue to increase, culminating with Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, which has a dome extending 32.6 meters. As the empire began to dwindle, many of these practices were forgotten, brickmaking became rare, concrete disappeared completely, and it would take centuries for projects to surpass the Romans. For the following centuries, most of the large European projects were made to emulate the Romans, and masonry became the main point of innovation. Most of the significant projects at the time were religious, as a phenomenon known as the Cathedral Crusade would focus all innovation on these structures. The Lincoln Cathedral became the first structure to surpass the height of the pyramids of Giza. But as the Cathedral Crusade began to die down, a new phenomenon would sweep the continent: a revival of the science of construction. During the Renaissance, many Roman practices were rediscovered. The architecture was published in mass for the first time, and once again, engineering and architecture were seen as sciences that required specialized education, not only technical practices taught by artisans. Once again, buildings were all about symmetry and harmony, hidden behind the mat. Columns, arches, and particularly domes came back. Emphasis was placed on city planning, with more public projects being made, and steel roads and hangars were being used to support large structures. Roads, bridges, and other systems would also become more sophisticated. Around this time, the Forbidden City had been constructed in China, the Taj Mahal in India, and Tenochtitlan was being built in the New World. An impressive city built in the middle of Lake Texcoco. The Aztecs created artificial land, constructed a 16-kilometer long dike, and connected the island with roads. They proved to be ahead of the time in urban planning, and today, Mexico City stands on the foundations the Aztecs laid 600 years ago. Back in Europe, innovations will continue to emerge gradually, but this process was slow, and at this rate, it would take a lot of time before the structures would resemble modern constructions. The Industrial Revolution completely changed the landscape of civil engineering. New smelting methods made iron easy to produce, leading to iron buildings. The first iron bridge was built across the River Severn, and iron columns were used in St. Anne's Church in Liverpool. Soon, buildings made entirely out of steel and glass would appear, notably the Crystal Palace at the London Expo in 1851. The process of construction became industrialized and segmented. Gas pipes were implemented into buildings, providing heat and energy. For the first time since the Romans, sewage, sanitation, and water supply pipes became the norm. Rail would unite the world, cutting distances and improving the transportation of goods and people, which led to further innovations in bridges, tunnels, and the first modern suspension bridges. In the middle of Paris, construction began on the iconic Eiffel Tower, whose design inspired the structures of countless projects. It also became the first landmark to surpass the pyramid's height significantly. In New York and Chicago, high-rises would be designed with cast iron columns supporting iron beams, and reinforced concrete was added to the mix. Buildings were beginning to reach for the skies. The new skyscrapers would be built with heating, cooling, and electric systems. Cities were growing exponentially. People needed to commute longer distances, which led to the first underground system in London, a revolutionary system soon adopted all over the world. The Suez and Panama Canal were built, mega projects that were once thought to be impossible. Airports were built, at first as military bases and for private use, but as aircraft became bigger and international travel for common people became possible, the size of these structures would increase tremendously. As cars became the norm, some cities were changed completely to accommodate the new mode of transport. Hundreds of thousands of miles of highways were built throughout the world. The Tower Bridge, Brooklyn, and the Golden Gate. Today, the largest overwater bridge is the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Power plants were built. Some of the most notable include Hoover, Itaipu, and Three Gorges. Buildings increased in scale. Chrysler, Empire State, World Trade Center, Willis, Petronas, Taipei, and the Burj Khalifa, an incredible structure extending 828 meters into the air. From high-speed rail to the Channel Tunnel, from the Shanghai skyline to the modern stadium, from the Dubai Expo to the Marina Bay, we, as humans, have come a long way.
Throughout history, humanity has faced many challenges, but we have adapted to the circumstances and innovated accordingly. The innovation in the field of construction is not only about who can build the tallest tower, the longest bridge, or the biggest power plant. It's about creating better infrastructure to better the standards of living, as infrastructure is the basis on which society operates. Thus, better infrastructure will always equal a better, happier, and more efficient society. Today, we continue to experience a lot of problems, but the search for better constructions to improve the standards of living continues, and I hope to be part of this effort one day. Thank you.